Well, what's happening is we're finding that even though Kamala Harris is doing more press, mostly liberal media, she hasn't talked to anyone conservative yet, or of that nature. She hasn't had anyone push back on her in a strong way. She's not gaining in the polls, and Donald Trump is gaining in the polls. And the elephant in the room, we're seeing a lot of people from not only the black male community, but the men community in general that are saying, "Hey, this just isn't working out for us." So the natural inclination is, well, maybe they're sexist because black men ain't running with her as much, and white men aren't running with her as much. Maybe men are just sexist and they want to see women, down, and that's where we kind of get to the conversation of, where maybe why President Obama is saying that you guys are being sexist and you don't want to vote for a woman. So I want to pose that question: are you guys willing to vote for a woman, starting with you, DK, Corey, Jayhawk, and DEI higher?
Um, I haven't vote. I didn't vote for Hillary. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh.
And if I'm just being honest, I mean, I can be honest. I can be honest.
Okay.
I think
So
that
would you consider yourself sexist when it comes to voting? He's starting to sweat a little bit.
not that I consider myself sexist. I just like I've always this is how I always believed in. And you could talk to my wife and other people. I just think that when you talk about putting women in leadership, right? That there's an issue that comes with it, right? And this is just like when I think about like the majority of people. Of course, there's outliners on everything, but usually, I mean, you see women make more decisions by emotions, and men make more logical decisions. So when I think about a leader, especially a leader of the most powerful country in the world, I want someone who's going to sit and make a logical decision over an emotional decision. And not saying that men don't make emotional decisions. I just think that women make more emotional decisions, and that's fine because I think God gave them more like a spirit to nurture. You know what I mean? And I think that to me that's just what it is, and I don't think that I don't have an issue with that. I think that's how they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be more nurturing. You know what I mean? I think God put a lot on us to be leaders of our household. So when I look at someone who's leading the country, I look at them as a leader of the household of our country. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So to me, I feel like it should be, you know what I mean? It should be a man. Not that I'm sexist, you know what I mean? Because I have great women in my life, great black women who have affected me, made me who I am. You know what I mean? So I'm not sexist. I just think that, when it comes to that, and I think all of these strong black women that are in my life would agree with that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I don't think that I'm
Hey,
saying anything that they wouldn't agree with.
Well, so
hey,
because I think about.
I think,
Mhm.
well, I say every great woman, every strong. Let me back up. Every strong woman isn't a great leader. You can be a great woman and not be just as some of you guys that were in the military and different paramilitary organizations that have women involved, that are co-ed. I know strong women that have been respect for them just like I have respect for males that were in leadership roles, and I know women that were put in leadership roles that shouldn't have been put there, and I can recognize what that looks like. And just like women, I know strong men that were leaders shouldn't have been put there, and I can recognize that because I've my adult life I've been in, those type of organizations, just like some of you guys, like I mentioned. So I think it's easy to recognize. And to me, even though Kamala might be some people call her a great woman, I don't see her as a strong leader. She doesn't come across as a strong leader.
Mm. But would you
And
guys?
it
But
just
would you
doesn't.
vote
And
for a
it's going to be
woman?
hard. I would vote for a woman if I thought she was a strong leader.
Because
And for
I
me,
think about
you have to
Margaret
get a lot of people.
Thatcher.
You have to get 300 million people to follow you. So you have to be a leader of 300 million people that trust you, that trust your judgment, and are willing to basically go to war.
Hmm.
I don't feel like she has that.
because I think about Margaret Thatcher, I think about Angela Merkel, who have been decent leaders for their own countries. And even being in the military, I've had female supervisors and things of that nature. So I don't have a problem with female leadership. And going to you, Corey, what are your thoughts? Could you see yourself voting for a woman?
I agree with what everybody else is saying. Yes, I could see myself voting for a woman in a leadership position. Again, coming from the military, I've had women commanders and supervisors, and women have passed Ranger School and Fields Bug Test, and you've got women that are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and have led the companies to success. So, can a woman do the job of leading a country? Yes. Does Harris display all of those leadership characteristics? I don't think so. Just being honest, I don't think she does.
Well, I gave the other two guys a little pushback, but I want to give you a little pushback too. President Biden chose her specifically because she's a black woman, not because of competence. It wasn't a meritocracy. It was mostly a DEI hire. If I
Right.
can steal your name down there, DEI. He specifically chose her because she was a black woman. Is that a little bit troubling for you? And now she's running for president?
Well, he chose her as the vice president. No.
Right. He specifically said he was pushed and lobbied and said, and people said that I'm not going to, well, a lot of the lobbies were black women that said that if you don't choose a black woman, we're not voting for you. Because remember, Kamala Harris said that Joe Biden was an unrepentant racist during the campaign. And his response to all that was, I will choose a black woman for my vice president, not a competent person. Fast forward to now, how does that play out? Is it the best person or is it a black woman that we're voting for?
I think if we would have had a real primary, I don't think she would have been the candidate amongst Democrats. Because I think there are other Democrats that would have beat her out. But
Yeah, I agree.
given the circumstances and where we are today, and we know how it played out, this is what we have to deal with.
Anything better than Trump is what you're saying.
I think a lot of people are voting for Harris because they don't like Trump, not necessarily because they like her or they feel like she's the best candidate, but it's better than voting for Trump.
DEI hire. What say you?
I have no issue voting for a woman. I have voted for a woman. Women, actually. On the local level, I even went out and got them on a petition so they could run for local office. I
So you don't
strongly
have a problem
supported a
with it?
state rep up until this point, but she's now currently running for Senate, her state senate in Pennsylvania. I am not voting for her this time because she has failed to meet benchmarks such as establishing a minimum wage and reducing the state budget. So she failed already in office. But I gave her a shot. So no, I do not have an issue voting for a woman.
So
They present themselves as a quality leader. And for Kamala, it's a no-go for me. And I'll say this again and again. She was appointed. There was no democratic process to allow her to achieve the opportunity that she's requesting from voters. Until you educate yourself on civics, how the system should work, you're a pawn. You're being controlled. So you should vote against her just because they're violating as a citizen. Period.
So you're saying off of principle because she wasn't democratically elected anywhere.
Hey, real quick, Punch. Reese wants to answer that question too.
Okay.
As far as voting for a woman,
Yeah, would you vote for a woman?
Since Kamala, like she kind of like talked about her family upbringing, how she doing things that she's doing, do all her situations being in power or in control. My mother was the same daggone thing, man. And basically, man, I would say my mother got it done. I'm still here today, 67 years later. And
So-
sure, I would vote for a woman. If
So
she
you're
could do a
saying
better-
that you're
she could do a better job than what the men's been doing. And I'm
so
not
you, so
saying
your
that
mother
I'm saying-
grew up in Canada and
You know, I'm
immigrated
not.
to
When we
San
talking about
Francisco?
Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, North Philly, Okay, we're not talking about Canada, somewhere I ain't never been to in my life.
Oh, okay. Well, you mean the middle class lifestyle Kamala had? That's what
Exactly.
you're saying?
And my mother came through, and I'm here today.
Hey.
Went to college with you. Understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences.
Do you guys feel that Kamala Harris understands the Black experience? I'll start out with an interesting observation from DEI Hire. Do you think that Kamala Harris understands the Black experience? Anytime you're ready, bro.
No, it's silly. It's silly.
Sorry,
Go
got
ahead.
me making. I'm making dinner. I'm making dinner. So anyway, no, I don't think she knows.
Well,
If
I
she
don't
did,
want to
she
pull
would
my
be. She
clip
would
out.
explain herself a little better.
I don't want to pull out my collard greens clip, and I'm not gonna lie, that had me laughing for days.
That's a Southern thing, and that's more of a Southern poor thing than a. We just associate that with the Black community.
Well, it is a Black thing too,
It's
right?
more
Because Black people.
it's more prevalent. It's more prevalent down there, but I think that was a reach if you had to do that.
Well, she
wasn't
said
genuine.
that she cleans her collard greens in the bathtub, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all. When she said that, I'm like, this woman is not Black. Ain't no way on this side of heaven that this woman is Black if she's washing collard greens in the bathtub. Sorry. And we had some folks on the panel last time that tried to. Well, they did wash collard greens in a wash tub, but did you also wash your body in that wash tub? A lot of reaching to make this woman a part of the Black cultural experience. And I think that's also one thing that Black men are not buying. I think a lot of Black men are saying, just stop talking about you being Black and your Black experience. Maybe President Obama shouldn't talk about her Black experience. And he was very careful with that. And just tell us about her policies. Get away from color, because she's not going to win that argument with the Black card thing. For some people, as long as she looked like, Auntie Julia, that's all that matters. But for a lot of folks, it's like when she starts scratching the surface, she's from Canada, by way of Jamaica, by way of India, and slave plantation owners. It's not a Black experience.